What's going on, Sneeples? A ton of spoilers again today. Not as much as yesterday, not as much as tomorrow, but a good amount today. A good healthy amount, I think. And some big ones too. So let's get into the spoilers of day 2. We're starting off with Legend Story Studios. The LSS themselves gives us Funeral Moon, a Shadow Runeblade action. So Runeblade action that we haven't actually had in a minute. So this is, first one to be revealed. And this is a Majestic. That is a red pitch. And it costs 0 and it blocks for 3. You may play this from your Banished zone. If a hero lost life this turn, you may play it as though it was an instant. Create a rune enchant token, and it has Blood Depth. So fits that Shadow Runeblade theme, where if it has Blood Depth, you can play it from your Banished zone. But it's pretty cool that if a hero lost life this turn, you can play it as an instant. And that's any hero. That's including Vincent herself, which she does lose life. It's, especially if you look at her ability, her weapon, she looks to lose some life. So creating that rune chant might help bring out those rune gate cards. Funeral Moon, cool art, cool name. That's going to be the theme with a lot of these cards from Dusk Till Dawn. Okay, moving on from PABLO PINTOR, we have Widespread Ruin, another Majestic Shadow Runeblade action, but this one's an attack. It is a red pitch, 2 cost, comes in for 6, blocks for 3, has Rune Gate, which means that because it costs 2, if you have 2 rune chants out, you can play it for free from your Banished zone. And says when the combat chains closes, each hero who has lost life this turn banishes the top card of their deck. So that includes you as the Vincent player, but also includes, possibly the prison player across from you or whatever, whoever else. You guys will both, if you guys both lost life, both be looking to banish cards. And of course, this has Blood Depth. So Widespread Ruin, very cool art. Looks like we get an Ursa in the background here. I like it. Moving on from BRYAN Gottlieb or BRYAN Go, we have Widespread Destruction, another Shadow Runeblade action. We got a lot of the Shadow Runeblade early on today. And this one's another Majestic. This is a yellow pitch that costs 3, attacks for 6, blocks for 3, has Rune Gate, and says when the combat chain closes, each hero who has lost life this turn banishes a card from their arsenal. So some arsenal hate we're seeing with Vincent. Very cool. And yes, it says each hero. So if you have a card in arsenal, you will banish a card as well. But if it is a Rune Gate card, no harm, no foul. Or if it's a card you can play from Banished zone. So we're seeing a very familiar pattern now with Vincent, in that her attacks have 6 power, which is very, very interesting to see, because I think what we're finally getting is a Go Tall Runeblade. And Vincent is that Runeblade. Okay, moving on to Red Zone Rogue, we get Oblivion. Oblivion is a Shadow Runeblade instant. It is Majestic and is a blue pitch that costs 0. And this is Vincent's specialization. That is a legendary, so you can only have 1 in the deck. It says play this only if you have exactly 6 rune chants. Create a Narsif the Soul Harrower token. So this says you can only play it if you have exactly 6 rune chants. That means if you have more rune chants than that, and rune chants pop individually. So every time that they are popping, you have a chance to respond. So once you get to 6, you can respond, which I think is pretty cool. So if you can make even more than 6 rune chants and kind of go like that old Blushy Skeleton route where you're just stacking rune chants, this might be a very good card to play. All right, now let's see what Nasref is. So Nasref, the Soul Harrower, I don't think I could say that 6 times fast, is a Shadow Token Demon ally. So just like Usur and Blasphemophet, we have another demon ally with Nasrev. And just like them, they come in, this demon is coming in for 6, has 6 health, and costs 0 to attack with. It also says, when Nasrev hits a hero, banish a card from their soul. If it is a light card, banished this way, gain 1 life. So, very good against the light heroes. These demons tend to target those light heroes' soul, and this is no exception. Very cool to see Vincent have her own demon ally. Okay, moving on to DM Armada, who gives us Vincent the Iron Maiden, and that is the adult version. Now, the adult version, as expected, is the same ability that the young has, which is at the start of your turn, you banish a card from your hand. If you do, create a rune chant token, and then whenever you play a shadow non-attack action card, you may pay a life. If you do, the next rune chant effect that would deal damage this turn cannot be prevented. So unblockable rune chant damage, and you are, able to banish cards. And particularly, what you want to do is ones with Rune Gate. So Vincent, 4 intelligence, 40 health, kind of exactly what we expected. But we also get from DM Armada Widespread Annihilation. Another majestic, and it's a blue pitch all the same. It costs 4, attacks for 6, and blocks for 3. So it does have Rune Gate, and it says when the combat chain closes, each hero who has lost life this turn banishes a card from their hand. And that one's really, really gnarly, because the other 2, banishing card from your arsenal and the top of your deck, that can like give and take. Maybe that's bad, maybe that's not. But if you're banishing a card from your hand by the end of your turn, you might not even have a card to be banished. However, your opponent might have a card to be banished. And what this does is it really puts your opponent at a deficit. They're basically having to lose 1 card if they lose any life from this. So this demands a full block, and that's kind of cool. Okay, moving on from eyeofophidia.net, we have Battlefield Breaker, and now we are finally starting to get our Shadow Brute cards. So this is a common. This is a Shadow Brute attack action. The red comes in for 7, blocks for 3, and it costs 3. And it says if you banish a card with 6 or more power this turn, this gets +1 and has a blood debt. So this is a 3 for 7. That could be a 3 for 8 if you banish a card with 6 or more. This does not require you to banish a card to play, however. So this can just be a solid 3 for 7 in the red version. Obviously, the blue will probably be 5 and the yellow 6. So I think the yellow is actually something worth playing in a deck like this to help eliminate the blood debt that you would acquire with Levia's ability, and have an extra pitch with it. And could also possibly come in for 7 if you banish another card. Okay, so now we get into the biggest one of the night, and some are saying the biggest one so far, and I think that's pretty on point, to be honest. So from Ethan Mansant, there's a saint anyways. From Ethan Mansant, we have Levia Redeemed, but it's not just Levia Redeemed. It is also Blasphemophet Levia Consumed. So let's go over Levia Redeemed first. We'll do things a little differently. If you watch this video, he'll do it the opposite way. But we're gonna go Levia Redeemed first, just cause. So this is a legendary Levia specialization, so you can only have 1. This is a Shadow Demi hero with 4 intelligence and 8 health. So we're going to get into that, what that means, because that's a whole new concept that's added to this game. But let's continue finishing her card up. So, action. Turn all cards in your banish zone face down. Transform into Levia Redeemed. Activate this ability only while this is in your inventory, which is another word for sideboard. and you have 13 or more cards with Blood Depth in your banish zone. Finally, the last piece of text. Cards you own lose Blood Depth. That's huge, right? Now, none of your cards have Blood Depth anymore, and you don't have to worry about dying to your own Blood Depth. That is no longer a thing. Now, what the hell does this even mean? What does this even do? Okay, so basically, Levia is still the hero that we got from Monarch, is still the same hero that you play into Dusk Till Dawn. But when you have this card in your sideboard or inventory in this game, then you have the ability to transform into Levia Redeemed. So if the conditions are met, which here you have to have 13 or more cards of Blood Depth in your sideboard, you can turn into Levia Redeemed. And then you will have 4 intelligence and 8 health, and you will assume all the all the action, everything that Levia Redeemed says, which is basically cards you own don't have or lose Blood Depth. And then your original Levia card just is in your soul. That is no longer the effect of Levia, of the original Levia, that her effect no longer plays here. It's just a card in your soul now. So very, very interesting concept. Very, very interesting all the same. But a very cool card. A card that allows you to basically go Blood Depth heavy and not be punished for it, which is pretty gnarly. Looks to be a lot of fun. Now, this card has a flip side to it, so let's talk about that. The flip side to this card is Blasphemous Levia Consumed. Okay, so again, this is a legendary Levia specialization, and this condition is, while this is in your inventory, when Blood Depth reduces your life to 13, you may transform into Blasphemous Levia Consumed. Okay, so this is, again, a Shadow Demi-Hero demon. Now, he has 4 intelligence and 13 health. So not the 8 health, but it's at the 13 health. So a little interesting there. But this condition, instead of having 13 cards of Blood Depth in your banish zone, you have to take Blood Depth to go to 13 health. And it is specific to that number. You cannot be, this will not activate if you are below 13, and this will not activate if you're above 13. It has to be 13, and it has to be through Blood Depth. So very interesting. Now, Blood Depth has been a trigger of 1 point of life for each Blood Depth card. So if you have 5 Blood Depth cards, and after the 3rd card you'd be at 13, then you can transform. It will go individually, taking your life down. So something to note there. Now, let's read what his ability is. Once each turn, you may play a card with Blood Depth from your banish zone. Whenever a card is put into your banish zone, turn it face down. If you would lose life from Blood Depth, instead banish the top card of your deck. So what this means is that your banish zone that you especially if you're taking Blood Depth, are probably having quite a bit of cards in, is now your hand. Kind of similar to Chain, how he operated. That's pretty nuts. I mean, Chain was pretty busted. I gotta imagine this is a great way to play Levia and feel pretty busted. Now, the caveat here is that if you're to lose life from Blood Depth, you would instead be banishing the top card of your deck. And so this could, basically run you out of a deck. And they get banished face down, so you won't be able to play those banished cards either. So that's another thing to know. But maybe you have the good cards already banished. You have some Dread Screamers. You have some Endless Maws. Maybe you're chilling. Maybe you're fine. If that's the case, then, just as Chain could still operate without a deck, you might be doing the same thing with Levia here. So something very interesting, I think. And again, provides a different play style. So I like both sides of this card. The transform mechanic is a very interesting thing. I'm very, very excited to try to build some Levia decks for sure. Okay, now that was a huge one, but we have to move on because we still have a few more. So for Fresh and Buds, we have Expendable Limbs. Now this is a Shadow Brute defense reaction, and it is a majestic and it is a blue pitch, and it costs 0 and blocks for 4. And it reads, as an additional cost to play is banish a random card from your hand. If a card with 6 or more power is banished this way, you may play it from your banish zone during your next action phase. Which means that basically this is a 0 for 4 D-React, which is on rate of what you want out of a D-React that, you know, has a cost, but its cost is mitigated as long as what you are banishing has a power of 6 or more. Because this is a blue pitch, I think this card's amazing. The fact that you can use it as a D-React, you can use it as a blue pitch, and the punishment isn't a punishment as long as your deck is built to be 6 power cards, which it probably is. I like this card a lot. It reminds me a bit of Reckless Swing, except you don't have to necessarily give up another card to play this card. So very, very cool card. Okay, next up from Kiki, we have Hayden Scream. Hayden Scream is a Shadow Brute action that is a rare. So expect all 3 colors. On this one, the red is a 0 cost that blocks for 3 and says, as an additional cost to play this, banish a random card from your hand. Your next brute or shadow attack this turn gets +5. So it doesn't matter what you banish, as long as you banish something from your hand and then your next brute or shadow attack. So this could be a weapon attack, getting the +5, and then it has go again. So the red's +5, the yellow's +4, blue +3. That's what I gotta imagine it's gonna be. An interesting card. I think 0 for 5 is good rate. However, you are banishing another card, but maybe that's a way to get kind of a free banish in to keep you from taking Blood Depth, because you're still playing the old Levia. Even though you can turn into the new ones, you still have to play with the old Levia constraint, which is to make sure that you're banishing something with a 6 power so you're not taking Blood Depth in the meantime. I'm not sure how this is going to play. I personally don't like these cards in Levia. I like her to have, you know, mostly just 6 power, but who knows. Okay, next up we have from ONETWOJUICE, we have Numbskull. So this is our first spoiled brute action. This is a brute attack action that is a majestic and is a red pitch that costs 2, comes in for 6, blocks for 3. Okay, those are things we want to see with brute. Now let's read what the ability is. While this is in any zone, it costs to play, power and defense can't be modified. So what that means is that it cannot be modified to be reduced or increased as far as its cost. Most notably, Frostbite's Channel Lake Frigid won't have an effect on Numbskull. The power can't be modified. Most notably here, Blood Rush Bellow won't be given the pump to Numbskull. However, stuff like Parable of Humility and some of the heralds that minus the attack power to prevent Phantasm being popped, that doesn't apply here. Numbskull's going to pop it no matter what's out. And the defense can't be modified, which the one I can think of is like Shred. Shred, modifies the defense here. That can't happen with Numbskull. So Numbskull is an interesting card. He is a 2 for 6 that blocks for 3, and that is that. That is that. I personally like the card. I actually think the card's pretty good. It's it's not a card that requires you to discard it or have an additional cost. It's a 2 for 6. Sure, it doesn't work with Blood Rush Bellow, but it works against other stuff. So I like Numbskull. Okay. Now, from Banished Zone, we get Beseech the Demigod. This is a shadow action. This is a common, so expect this in all 3 colors. The red version costs 0 and defense for 2, and says choose an attack action card in your Banished Zone. It gets +3 until the end of turn. Go again. The people from Banished Zone basically called this a shadow nimbalism, and I think that's fair to say, honestly. This is a card that I could see Chain using quite efficiently, so this could be seen in Blitz being used. Levia and Vincent, probably not Levia, maybe Vincent, but I think this really screams Chain to me more than any other shadow hero. So even though he is LL'd in CC, he is still legal in Blitz, and I think this might be a card that he would want to use. This is a good non-attack action card that's cheap and has go again. So I like this card for that. The blues is probably +1 and the yellow is probably +2. Okay, moving on. From RITETIME Gaming, we get 2 cards. We get Tribute to Demolition, which is a Shadow Brute attack action. That is a common. It costs 2, comes in for 6, blocks for 3. The red version comes in for 6, that is. And it reads, as an additional cost to play this, banish a random card from your hand. Something similar to Rhinar, except you're banishing, so okay. If a card with 6 or more is banished this way, it gets +2. So this could be a 2 for 6 with just a random banish. However, it could be a 2 for 8 if that random banish is a 6 power. So kind of like a 3 or a 5 for 8, because you gotta wonder what that banished card is, that randomly banished card from your hand is gonna really be. But something that I could see definitely getting played in Commoner, maybe in CC. I'm kind of drifting away from it, but maybe. Now let's look at the other one that they have. They have Tribute to Demolition and Tribute to the Legions of Doom. What a name. Again, these names are awesome. So another common, the red version comes in for 7. It costs 3, it blocks for 3. And this one says as additional cost, banish another random card from your hand. So I should say banish a card from your hand, a random card from your hand, just like the other card. Anyways, if a card with 6 or more is banished this way, it gets +2. And so it could come in for 9. Now, both these cards, I don't think I've mentioned, have Blood Depth. That should also be noted. So this is a 3 for 7 with a random banish, but it could be a 3 for 9 with a random banish. So interesting. Again, here, I think, Commoner, definitely. I'm not too sure about Blitz or CC. Okay, from Hayden Dell, we have Scowling Flesh Black. And this is a big one. This is what I was really hoping to see in this set. I'm glad we finally got it. This is a brute equipment for the head. I very much like that. We're finally not having to have brutes have the Crown of Providence or the Arcanite Skullcap. They finally get their own headpiece that isn't just for arcane. Now, this says when this defends, intimidate. Pretty big. And it has blade break, so it only, can block for 2 once. It can only do this once, but that's pretty huge because, especially against aggro decks, this could stop an aggro deck from popping off. If you can intimidate a card that they need, on a turn that they're trying to pop off, say like Briar doing a Channel Mount Heroic turn, this would be the time to use Scowling Flesh Black to, limit their big turn to 1 less card. And as we know, Intimidate can be the biggest difference as far as damage output. If they only have 1 blue in hand and you intimidate that blue away and they can't play anything else that's effective, that's a great turn. So I really like Scowling Fleshback. I think this is a really cool card. Yes, Ragnar still has to wear the tunic, but at least he has a cool helmet now. And Leviah probably is going to be wearing this as well. But definitely Ragnar. Definitely Ragnar. Okay, now there is another spoiler that hasn't been spoiled yet. It is a scavenger hunt that's on the Fab Cube. You can go and try that out. I haven't been successful in even starting it. So, my internet's been down. That might be it. Maybe you guys can get to it, but no one's found it as of this recording. So, that has been all the spoilers of Saturday, day 2 of the spoiler weekend. And a lot of big ones, especially with Leviah. So, very, very excited for this new set. Cannot wait to see where this goes. We're going to come the last day of spoilers that's coming tomorrow. Stick with us. It's going to be another big one, and this is where you get all your spoiler content. So until then, keep on fabbing. Catch you on the next one.